When someone is found with no name, there is a quiet sorrow that settles around the moment. A person who once moved through the world, who had routines, memories, relationships, now exists only as a question. We wonder, where were they from? What shaped their life? Who cared for them, and who may still be waiting, unaware of what happened? Some of these stories find resolution. Identities are restored, families are notified, and a measure of peace returns. Others take years, slow, patient work that spans generations, and there are cases that remain open, held gently by those who refuse to forget. Lake Panasoffkee is situated deep within Florida's wetland region, with Interstate 75 running along its eastern edge, linking the state to the wider southeast. On February 19th, 1971, two teenagers walking north along the highway near Shady Brook Creek, a shallow stream feeding into the lake, came across something unsettling beneath an overpass. A human hand was visible above the water. The body was in an advanced state of decomposition, and investigators estimated that the woman had died several weeks earlier. She had been strangled. A men's belt, size 36, remained fastened around her neck. Examinations also revealed 2 fractured ribs, suggesting additional trauma prior to her death. Jane Doe was described as a young woman, likely somewhere between 17 and 24 years old. She was of small build, standing around 5'3" and weighing roughly between 110 and 120 pounds. Her hair was dark and her eyes were brown. At the time she was found, she had been dressed in green plaid trousers with a matching plain green top, and she had worn a shawl patterned in green and white. She'd also been wearing a white gold Baylor wristwatch on her left wrist, a slim gold necklace, and a gold ring set with a clear stone on her left ring finger. These were a few personal belongings that remained with her. Quiet details that offered small glimpses into who she might have been. With no identification and no one reporting her missing, investigators were unable to learn who she was or who had taken her life. Despite efforts to match her with missing persons reports or identify anyone who might have known her, no family came forward. After half a year passed without answers, she was buried in Oak Grove Cemetery in Wildwood, Florida, her grave marked only with a small metal plaque bearing a simple inscription, Jane Doe, 1971. Later, she became known as Little Miss Panasoffkee. About a decade passed before there was new movement in the case. When Jamie Adams assumed the role of sheriff in Sumter County, he began looking through the department's unresolved investigations. The unidentified young woman's death stood out to him, and the lack of answers weighed heavily on him. Within a year of taking office, he arranged for the case to be reopened. A court order was secured to have her remains exhumed, in hopes that advances in forensic work might offer new clues. To assist, Sheriff Adams brought in Dr. William Maples, a highly respected forensic anthropologist known for his expertise in examining historical and unidentified remains. Dr. Maples stated, quote, "The re-examination of the remains, ordered by Sheriff Adams, gave us a piece of information that is crucial, something that wouldn't have been known had it not been for Sheriff Adams, and that was that she had orthopedic surgery to her right ankle. This was done by an orthopedic surgeon who wound a tendon through holes drilled in the bones of the ankle. It is a Watson-Jones or modified Watson-Jones technique. The family or the physician may remember this." Beyond the Watson-Jones procedure she had undergone on her ankle, the examination revealed significant dental work, including crowns, caps, and fillings. Investigators also determined that she had given birth to at least one child. Together, these details pointed to a life in which she had received some level of care and attention, hinting that she may have had loved ones who survived her. Sheriff Adams then reached out to forensic artist Linda Galliner, who was well regarded for her skills in reconstructing facial features from bone structure. He hoped that a carefully developed likeness might help someone recognise the young woman and perhaps finally give her back her name. Sheriff Adams requested that Linda produce age progression sketches, envisioning what the young girl might have looked like at 6 and 12 years old. At the time, this approach was unprecedented in criminal investigations. Determined to uncover her identity, Adams distributed thousands of flyers to law enforcement agencies across the United States and Canada, reached out to hundreds of hospitals, and pursued countless leads. Despite these efforts, the girl, known only as Little Miss Panasovsky, remained nameless. Around 1988, a woman came forward after recognising a three-dimensional reconstruction of the victim's face, created by artist Betty Pat Gateliff. She recalled meeting the girl in 1970, when the girl introduced herself as Carol and was living as a runaway from an undisclosed state. According to the witness, Carol often spent time near Clearwater Beach, south of Lake Panasovsky. She had previously injured her ankle while attempting to escape her circumstances and had allegedly been pregnant, giving up the child before running away. The woman remembered seeing Carol for the last time in the fall of 1970, leaving with 3 unknown men from the Tampa area. The Carol theory, however, was later disproved. Jane Doe's remains were exhumed twice. First in 1986 and again in 2012 as forensic science advanced, allowing investigators to conduct new testing and create more artistic reconstructions of her appearance over the years. Analysis of stable isotopes in her teeth suggested she may have originated from southeastern Europe, possibly the mining town of Laurium, Greece, and had likely lived in the United States for less than a year. High levels of lead in her teeth supported this timeline. Analysis of her hair supported the idea that her time in Florida had been brief, suggesting she had been in the state for less than 2 months before her death. Based on these findings, some investigators speculated she could have been in the area for an Epiphany festival, a January celebration that draws many Greek Orthodox visitors. The case gained renewed attention when it was featured on the Greek television programme Phos Sto Townal. Following the broadcast, a woman came forward believing the facial reconstruction resembled a girl she had known named Konstantina. Both had attended a preparatory school in Greece that trained young women for domestic work. Upon completing their training, the school arranged for students to work abroad under 2-year contracts, sending some to Australia and others to the United States. The school was funded by the International Organization for Migration. The woman lost contact with Konstantina after they were separated. Konstantina went to the US while the witness was sent to Australia. Konstantina's arrival in the United States matched the time frame indicated by forensic testing of the victim's remains. In February of 2025, the Sumter County Sheriff's Office adopted the STORM Automatic Biometric Identification System, known as ABIS or ABIS, a cloud-based digital fingerprint platform developed by IDEMIA for law enforcement use. By October of the same year, the victim's fingerprints were submitted to the system, with assistance from a latent print examiner at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Astonishingly, the results brought up a fingerprint match to a 1970 arrest made in Florida. Little Miss Panasovsky, who had been nameless for over 50 years, was named as 21-year-old Maureen Rowan. Maureen Rowan, born Maureen Lou Minor in Maine in 1949 and who was affectionately nicknamed Cookie by her family and friends, married Charles Emery Rowan Sr., who went by his middle name, in 1967. The couple had 2 children and lived at 1206 Windermere Way in Tampa, Florida, though their marriage was reportedly fraught with tension. Charles Rowan Sr. filed for divorce in November of 1970, which was finalised in August 1971, 7 months after Maureen's body was discovered. After her disappearance, he allegedly told their children that she had left him. The family also had connections to Jacksonville and Gainesville, Florida, as well as Enigma, Georgia. In 1970, Maureen had been arrested in Hillsborough County for passing a bad check. During the arrest, her fingerprints were taken, a record that would later play a crucial role in confirming her identity. Despite earlier speculation linking her to Greece, investigators ultimately determined she was born in the continental United States. The chemical treatments used during her embalming had severely degraded her DNA, complicating attempts to conduct genetic analysis for investigative genealogy. Beginning in 2018, multiple laboratories attempted to recover usable DNA, but all efforts failed due to contamination from the embalming process. A limited DNA test performed after her initial exhumation in 1986 provided only minimal data, insufficient for genealogical research. Authorities discovered that one of Cookie's loved ones had seen a television broadcast about the case and suspected the woman might be Cookie, but they never came forward to report their suspicions to the programme. Charles Rowan Sr. was considered a person of interest in the investigation following the identification of his estranged wife. The couple's marriage had been unstable, and they were living apart shortly before her disappearance. Law enforcement described his conduct both before their separation and after her body was found as suspicious. He allegedly told relatives that she had left of her own accord, which contributed to the fact that no missing person report was ever filed. However, law enforcement has stated that there was not enough evidence to formally charge or name him as a suspect. He passed away in 2015 at the age of 74, taking any secrets he may have had to his grave. Sadly, Sheriff Jamie Adams, who dedicated himself to solving the case, passed away in 2022 at the age of 81, never knowing Little Miss Panasovsky's true identity. After decades of uncertainty and investigation, the young woman once known only as Little Miss Panasovsky was finally identified as Maureen Rowan. While many questions about her final days may never be fully answered, advances in forensic science and the tireless work of investigators finally restored her name, offering a measure of closure after 50 years of uncertainty. While many details of her final days may never be fully known, the discovery gave her a place in the world she had been denied in life, honouring her memory and reminding us of the profound human need to be remembered, known, and seen.